Good morning. All right, we have three guys that's really under the same designation, which would be Garrett, Stiggers, and Cam. Those guys would be doubtful. And early on in practice, those guys will be working with the trainers, and then we'll see how that goes when they transition into practice. Michael Carter, he'll be at full practice. He's in the last stage of his protocol. And Josh Reynolds, he'll be in full practice also. So other than those guys, I think we're good when it comes to this week. The focus of this week is winning this game, hands down, point blank. But also making sure that we improve, because there's no way to consistently win without improving. So the guys have done a good job of that. We know we have a lot of work to do. We're not running away from where we are. But again, we're looking to improve. Even today, we're going out there for this red zone practice and improve. So any questions?
We spoke to Justin Wednesday, I guess it was.
Yep.
He said he had a contusion after the Miami game that was kind of bothering on his leg a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you think that affected him in the last couple of games? Do you think maybe that he might be able to use those legs a little bit more this week?
Well, he answered you guys' questions on how he felt about that. But anytime we have a chance, if you're out there, we're going to try to use his legs. Every game is different. I think I said that earlier in the week on how we want to utilize him. The thing we don't want to do is put him in a situation where we have to make sure we protect him from himself a lot of times too. So he's our quarterback, and we want to make sure that we utilize him the right way.
And with the pass protection moving forward, what can you guys do to shore things up against blitzes? Because a lot of teams are doing that against you guys.
Yeah, well, first off, we just have to execute the right way. And there's a number of things we can do as far as keeping guys in when it comes to protecting our quarterback, too. And we utilize some of those things. But what that also does is not allow guys to get out into a route. So, and it's really some of our good players, for Brees, Mason. Sometimes we keep those guys in for extra protection. But there are other times, man, we just got to get the ball out of our hands and allow those guys to make catches in space and go to work.
How important is it going to be to get Brees a little more involved in the passing game? I know that was a big topic coming into the season. That you said you wanted to make sure he got that.
Absolutely, and that's something that we look at every week. And does it always work to that point? No, it doesn't. It goes to what the question was just asked. Sometimes we got to keep him in protection. So he's not able to get out in their route and be able to receive some of those passes that we want to get to him. But it's always important to try to get the ball in his hands. He's one of our better players. I've always said that when it's either running the ball or throwing it to him, we want to try to make sure we do that.
Aaron, what have you thought of Will McDonald through kind of the first 6 games and just what you've seen from him on the field?
Yeah, obviously he started on fire the first game by having the 2 sacks in that game. The thing is, we got to try to do everything we can to try to get him involved as much as we can as far as the pass rush is concerned. He's a special athlete. We all know that. He has a trait that we want to take advantage of. And we just got to try to utilize that as much as possible. But I do think he's been doing a good job. I mean, obviously there's some things that he needs to work on just like any other player. But I'm happy with where he's at.
Last year he had, I think it was like 7 sacks for the first 6 games or something.
Yeah.
Just when he maybe doesn't get those at the same rate, how have you maybe tried to help him navigate that, or how have you seen him sort of navigate maybe just not the stats being there?
Well, you don't panic for one. And the thing is, you just don't go outside of your defense to try to make things like that happen. Sometimes you try to get them as many one-on-ones as you can just by utilizing several fronts that would get them a one-on-one. And the more you can do that, the more those sacks will come. And even pressures too. We still have a long way to go as far as the season is concerned, and we're still looking forward to him getting those sacks.
Aaron, Justin talked about this. You talked about this also, just getting the ball out quicker. He said, you got to go, 1, 2, 3, get it out.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you could do or that he could do, really, at this point in the season to work on that and really get it out and make it faster, that process?
I know that's a huge topic that everyone talks about, but sometimes there's a lot that goes into that. And when you look at the time he gets the ball out, some of those have been in some of his best games when he's holding the ball, 3 seconds or whatnot. And it's who he is, and sometimes it's play calls and the way that he sees things. So, and I'm not sitting here saying that he doesn't need to get the ball out. There's some quick game, where the ball has to come out, and you work on those in practice. But there's also an element of, and we know who that player is. You look at Lamar. I think Lamar, his numbers getting the ball out is higher than Justin's. I think Josh Allen's numbers are higher than Justin's. But I think everybody tends to see who those guys are and understand that. And for some reason, they don't understand Justin. But listen, I'm not sitting there saying that there's some times where he got to get the ball a lot. He knows that. He articulated that to you guys, and we're going to continue to work on that as much as we can.
How have you felt overall about the offensive line play?
Listen, I really like, where our guys are at. I really do. But just like any other team, just like any other player, there's room for improvement. And I think, from last week, man, there were some things that we got to improve on when it comes to the pressures and things like that. But there are some weeks I thought, we were very dominant as an offensive line, and we have to get back to that as much as we can. But listen, I do like where we're at. Can we improve? Absolutely. And those guys have a lot of pride about themselves and how they go about practice and how they go about in the game. So I'm expecting them to improve from last week when it comes to the pressure that they received.
Take a couple more.
With Arian Smith, with Garrett possibly not playing, what are your thoughts on an increased role for him this week? And he has 4 catches in 6 games. Is he still learning the route tree? Is he still getting comfortable with the offense? Why not a little more from him so far?
Well, I think he's just learned in general as a rookie. And there's only so many balls that can go around when you have Garrett, when you have Brees, when you have Mason, when you have all these guys. Some people tend not to understand that part of it, that everybody can't get the ball. But he's doing his job well. Again, just like anybody else, there's some things that he can improve on. And we're not saying Garrett's not playing, all right? But if Garrett doesn't play, we have other guys that have to step up, and he's one of them. So that's one guy that can get more action when it comes to that. But we want to make sure that, man, Brees gets it, Mason gets it, obviously Arian, Josh, Lazard, all those guys get a chance to get the ball at some point.
I assume Garrett, obviously wants to get out there. Do you have to, kind of protect him from himself and just make sure you don't allow him to do that?
Well, that's a lot of guys. We have a number of competitive guys, but I let him and the doctors handle that for the most part.
AJ, I'm curious, you've delivered the message in here a few times.
Yep.
This is an instant coffee. The ship's going to take a while to turn around.
Yep.
I think when you're coming in here, you're talking to us, you're talking to fans. When you're talking to a guy like Quinn Williams,
Yep.
right? It's in his 7th season, hasn't had a playoff game yet. You know better than anybody.
Absolutely.
These careers are not forever, right?
Yep.
How do you talk to Quinn about that?
Man, that's a really good question, because those are the hardest conversations to have, especially when you're talking to a group of young guys and getting them to understand that, man, there has to be a foundation that has to be set. And before you can consistently win, I keep saying that word because there's things you have to do to consistently win. And before you can do that, there's groundwork that has to be laid. I experienced that with New Orleans, I experienced that with Detroit, I experienced that as a player here. And when you're talking to a player like that, like he's a huge part of what we're doing, and his leadership will continually help with that. So kind of directing that message more on, man, your leadership, the way that you operate, the way that you influence the other guys. And I know that you've been in the league 7 years, but who says we can't get this thing going by this week? Who says we can't get this thing going in by this week, going to next year? Because I've experienced that. We started 0-10-1, 3-13. Listen, that's not good. We started 1-6 at the beginning of the season, then we go 8-2, end up 9-8. That's a turnaround. And we're fighting for the playoffs. So that's a meaningful game for him to be a part of. So I've been a part of that. And those are my conversations with him is just like I tell the fans, like I tell you guys, don't let go of the road, because there's still a lot more time to get this thing done. And we are building a foundation to make sure there's stability in what we're doing. I understand we're 0-6. I'm with you, man, but we're trying to build something to move forward.
With Michael
Last
Carter,
one here?
Yep.
with Michael Carter coming back to practice and with Jarvis Brownlee, his performance, how do you sort of weigh a player that's been in your system now for a few months and someone that's relatively new but had such a great game the previous week?
Well, both of those guys will have packages where they'll be playing, but the thing is we got to make sure that Michael Carter finishes out his stage as far as protocol is concerned. But when it comes to practice, we have packages for both of those guys. Listen, we can't deny that Brownlee did a really good job last week, but we also can't deny that Michael Carter's done a good job too. So when you have 2 players like that, you just make packages for both of those guys to be on the field.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.